Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. So last time we've derived and proven up until the point that protons and electrons exist, and they do. And so all matter, right, mass is matter, all matter is a dynamic of positive and negative charge. And so you say, Brad, we have the neutron. No, we don't. Google it. You still have a charge distribution, meaning, right, the neutron is not a unique physical state, right? We have two things, positive and negative. They can be in two configurations, spin up or spin down, positive and negative, electron, proton. And so we see the internal dynamic of the proton with the three bounding of quarks. And then the electron is just so small, there is internal structure, but it is limited by measurement. But we have, again, proven the physical inverse. And so, right, then we have movement is dynamic. Our absolute limit of movement is vibration. You take something, try to contain it into a space, it's going to vibrate. And if you try to maximize something's movement or maximize any efficiency of a physical system, you form a rhythm. And so, just working through our derivation, what is polarity to periodicity? Again, finite size, right? Absolute size exists. There is some sort of finiteness to the electron. You know, is it fundamental dynamic all the way down? There is some finite structure, but it is all limited by measurement. And so we have just positive and negatives, this fundamental physical dichotomy orbiting one another. And so those two things orbiting one another produces matter, but the orbit itself produces periodicity. And so polarity produces periodicity. Cyclicality is periodicality. Again, using our general forms of these words, periodicity, cyclicity, cyclicality, periodicality. Sensorality is periodical. What is sense? Right, we had verse is serve. We're in that clear, close form, right? What we're trying to do is find this, what is sensorality, show this direct iteration of those letters. And so what is sense? And if I'm sensing something, I have charge interacting with other charge, it's doing something, I'm processing information, right? Sensation perceives information. What is sense to verse? Sensorality senses verse. Verse is measured, right? Like music. How many beats per measure, right? That's a good verse in that song. Okay, that's where this term, universe, verse is musical. Sensorality is musicality. Verses serve. You got served, bro. Literally a movie. Sensorality services verse. Service versus, right? This versus that, that's opposition. Service, goods and services. Versus virus. Sensorality, viruses. That's not a word, but it produces ruses. Sensorality ruses. Sensorality arouses. Sensorality is arousality. Sensorality is rousality. Arousal is alertness. Sensorality is alertality. Alerting notifies. Sensorality is notifiality. A notification is an alert. Flipping inverts. So back to this inversion, we have thing. That one thing has to differentiate, so it has to invert. That creates opposition. That opposition stabilizes. That's why we have positive and negative. That's why we have big proton, small electron, like we have big infinity, small infinitesimality. Entropy and energy, I'm not sure which one's more, but we have something that's big and something that's small. Again, these inverses, if you have 5, then you have 1/5, those being inverses. Clearly, it gets bigger and small. You have one big thing, one small thing by the nature of inversion. And so sensorality is the inverse of sensorality. I'm trying to show this direct iteration. And so also, I think I put it on the screen, but like N and V, like if you flip V, it's like an N has that hump, that curve to it, and V, like if you flip V, right? Wow, mom. That was in SpongeBob episode way back when. And he's just the buff fish at the thing. It's like dancing. It's wow, mom, right? The W and the M are, again, reflections, inversions. And so, again, trying to sync, again, originally we asked the question, is opposition and inversion, what's the difference? And now it's just, again, this chronological process of existence, inversion to differentiate. That creates opposition. That opposition stabilizes. Continuing on with our derivation. And again, anything that is not resolved, I've already done all of these steps. There's just a lot of them. It doesn't take away that I need to get through them all to have this proof of sensorality. But the point is, I don't even care. Like, I've done so much research up until this point where I just want my life quality to change, and it never will. But flipping inverts. And so if you take the N and flip the V, you kind of see that inversion. But when we go from verse, right, inverse is serve. Right now we have S-E-R-V-E. But that flip, we flip that V, and then we get you go to the N, but we're showing that iteration to sense, right? Serve, sense. So again, we're going to drive everything syllable by syllable, letter by letter, completely. But still up into this point, we've done so much research where it's just like, please pay me some money. I am being tortured. Absolutely nobody cares. Inversion flips. Aeriality inverts. Right? If somebody's at the Olympics and does an aerial, they're doing a flip. Aeriality inverts. Sensorality is aeriality. Again, another one of these direct uses of language to describe physics, right? The Olympics, twisting and turning, right? A back full, you do a backflip and you do a 360, like a back tuck with a full spin. So why is the full, right? Why are we talking about rotation there? Again, just something that popped up, but the fullness, right? A back full is in reference to rotation, right? You can have a complete rotation, right? 360 degrees, 2 pi radians, right? It's a complete, right? You have a circle, you can have completeness. And so we're trying to show this completeness of language to stabilize sensorality. Electron, elect. Sensorality, elects. Sensorality, select. And so now again, pointing it out, but we go from this sensorality elects, that S, again, this iteration now, not a flipping or an inverting, but like we're on an assembly line where we have a set amount of things and we have to keep like putting them in different orders. And that S goes to the front. Sensorality elects, sensorality select. And so, right, that one, sensorality select, sounds funny because it's not a verb, or at least it's not the right conjugation. But we're showing again this like fixed elementality, where we only use the same letters, and that's becoming more apparent as we get closer to the stabilization of sensorality. Don't really know what to make of it, but we go from something plural with the proper noun verb conjugation, sensorality elects, and then we just become unplural and then make it a verb thing. Again, it's not even plural, right? Sensorality elects. The S there is not functioning as a plural S. Sensorality select isn't really like a complete sentence. But you get what I'm saying, not sure what to make of it. But special is select, right? If you have a premium beer, Budweiser Select, literally. Right? It's special. Sensorality is selectionality. Sensorality is electionality. An election is a vote. Inverse, invoke. Sensorality invokes. Sensorality revokes. Revocation is censorship. Sensorality is sourceshipality. A version is an addition. Sensorality is additionality. Addition, addition. And so we continue on, again, this logical linguistical iteration. Truly, there's a lot more differentiation, but you guys don't see that. And so when I'm sitting there and you see all of the dichotomistic pairs, just the two words in parentheses, and then, just single theorems, right? These videos are for you. And so all of the logic is contained within the words. I keep saying it, but it's true. And so I can't emphasize enough when I see Sean Carroll tweeting, be patient with new ideas. We're going on a hike, as if like you're guys going to go talk about something. Here is the final result of all of this analysis, all of this derivation, all of this realization. And you arrogant pieces of shit are going to go try to talk about the logic The context you cannot develop because you are not nearly close. Again, deriving the basis of mathematics as thematics was kind of a cool step. Look how many episodes ago. I mean, it's not like, that's a world-class, out of this world step, and it's not even like, again, we're not even getting going to be doing mathematics yet. And so the results we've proven in the past, all of the ones in green letters on the series is like, those are huge results where it's like we're back into physics proper or mathematics proper that you can see. But this whole process of those dichotomistic pairs and theorems, it's still the byproduct of me personally realizing it. Again, that's why you see people in history. Why would I write anything down? I am way past the need to write anything down. I mean, that was when I was like a kid. And so, the point being is, can't emphasize enough historically how you guys went on a hike to like talk about the theorems you didn't understand because you guys are arrogant as shit, as opposed to just like, call me. And so, while at the same time, again, my constitutional rights being violated, my personal life's absolutely being destroyed, my life is definitely being threatened, I'm enduring grave bodily harm, and you guys are just like, well, we're not sure. Well, we'll see on the weekend, it's time to go watch the Olympics, time for another meeting, time for another conference, time for another, date night with my wife, time for another day off, and I'm over here just sitting here like, you guys are gonna just like fucking ruin my whole life. And you have. That's awesome, fantastic. And so, a lot of, again, the physical realization to theorem writing is the most trivial thing for me, but by the time I've written the theorem, I get all of the logic. And so it's just the different steps of the proof where it's like, is inversion not opposition? It's just me trying to capture all of the little nuance as this realization process occurs. And not for anybody alive today. I can't emphasize enough, this documentation is forever. Or as long as human beings or this novel independent story is relevant, which is every bit of the story. But the people alive today in academia and law enforcement, you are piss on nobody, worthless pieces of shit that have destroyed, you're just criminals. And so all of this me documenting and talking is not for literally anybody alive today. And so profoundly not for anybody that was aware of my work, that is suppressing science. Anybody older than the age of 12 aware of my work today, at any point in time when I'm not being recognized, I don't give a single fuck about any aspect of your life. And I actively don't want to help you. Again, I will do everything I can to get my research known. Once my research is known literally everywhere, I will take all of my lectures and make it private. I'm literally going to monopolize education. Because all you fucking idiots can do is open your mouth, steal my property, and then fuck up all of education. Right? There's objectively no purpose for anybody to teach, quote unquote, theory. None, zero. But in reality, you don't teach anything, you don't lecture anything. Learning is an individual process. I've said it a million times, everybody knows it, but people don't really get what that means. Going in front of a room and saying, here's this derivation, here's this lecture, you kind of have to be motivated on a personal level to want to be able to learn, and then you kind of get, the physical intuition yourself to go try to figure something out. And so learning is 100% an individualized process. Teaching and lecturing is like an instruction, it's like 5% of the learning process, and I would say 98% of the process is just the individual trying shit. And then 2% like instructional material. And so I 100% own, again, anything fundamental in terms of research, and everything else is emergent. But when you do proof by logical exhaustion, there's nothing else you can say. Literally every single one of these results is independent of me saying it. But because I'm the very first person to derive this shit, and frankly, I don't see anybody else, even like the intellectual framework and capacity to start is just like, I've never even met, and I've met other sentients, and it's just like not even beginning to kind of be close. And so, now for the other sentients, it makes sense because once you have this awareness, it gets taught to everybody. And so it's like, once you come online, so to speak, as Eric Weinstein fraudulently says, again, the technology is fucking hilariously irrelevant, meaning Earth, human beings' progression of it. I mean, that's already known, right? Physics, again, is known everywhere. The actual mathematics, the proving of stuff, does one person do it? Every section of sentience comes online at some point. Is it one person? Again, you guys see, like, again, this is as tight as a presentation of this level of proof that is possible to exist. And you see that it's very literally like 7 years of continuous derivation at this level to the point of sets of proofs. I just write down the things that are most relevant to transmit to you. There was way too much to even write down or to articulate in any way. And so, is it one person that comes online, or is it like a collective, hey, rhythm and vibration are a thing, or again, or however those principles are represented? And then the overall scientific community of a species kind of like figures it all out and iterates it. Because again, like once I'm dead, I'm assuming that it won't, because again, certainly like the overall sentiment, like the understanding of physics being known will not allow this, like not be able to have one individual generate the intuition to do this again. And so I think it will just be you'll get the word form just by iterating the letters. To do the proofs, I don't know if it's a one individual or a collective process. My idea is that I think it's going to be a collective process, and that's not to say I'm smart. It's just to say that, again, the initial intuition can't be present in your culture. And so any sentience that isn't human beings, again, there's so much life out there, it's hard to say what other sections do. But any section that's technologically developed enough where they're aware of traveling interstellar, intergalactic, again, the concept of physics kind of goes away. History's always there, economics is certainly always there, ecology is certainly always there. But like sitting in a classroom and studying physics, you just have this awareness. I mean, it's like it goes away at the species level. And so, the point being is the logical structure you need to like do this as an individual. There's a truly like physical initial conditions, and then past that, again, I'm demonstrating this, and all of this is profoundly trivial to me, and it's just development of property, and there's like, again, inarticulably more. It's just these are, again, sets of proofs is what's happening constantly, and then I just pick out the poignancies of it, where it's like, this definitely needs to be known. But then once you have this initial breakthrough, learning, like education, gets spread through the whole species, good, in a good way, I mean good, right? And so that's where I'm at here. Again, I don't, just kind of a historical aside, but that's what I don't think you guys get super secret science team is it's like, I'll do a whole nother video, but they're not that much more I can say. It's just, I'll do a whole nother video. There's a good chunk, but like your overall motivations, like super secret science team, including not humans, are just like, the one thing you guys don't have at all is this awareness of not being in a group, right? Because like it's very easy to say, you know, you take any high school 14-year-old and like, I'm so lonely, dude, emo. But again, another one of these things that happens as a societal piece of awareness is that like you don't feel like lonely throughout your species. And so I'm sure the non-humans and super secret science team, which super secret science team, I don't know if you're catching on, isn't just humans, right? These walls that you come up against and like, we can't figure out who it is. Huh, maybe it's not the people. But it's like an integrated like council of effectively a mix between science, military, but military not really being like violence, right? Every species has war history, it has turmoil in their home place, but it's like an artifact in their awareness and their understanding. There's no such thing as malevolence, and that just straight up doesn't exist. What we see as evil in our society, again, is this insecurity. It's a measurable quantity of just like transmitting tension to like offshoot responsibility. But that's why there's no, if you interact with friends, right, there's no, it's just calmness. It's just pure calmness. And that's how I am. And so that's why it's so just like, when you guys fire your Hellfire missiles at the formations and it just like discombobulates them for like 2 seconds and then it reconfigures. Like that's how my awareness is on a personal level. You can pelt me with insecurity all of the time. And luckily for me, I live with my parents, so that happens really naturally. It just like discombobulates me for like 2 seconds and then just like, but you can't like break it. Meaning my personal awareness. But the point being is on a like society level, technology, there's no, you don't complete technology, but you complete physics and the whole species knows this stuff. Law enforcement becomes like an inevitable thing, both from like the citizens, meaning nobody really wants to commit crime. Crime just happens because these practical inefficiencies, those kind of go away. There's always some inefficiency, but law enforcement's pretty universal, like law, and then subsequent enforcement, which is up how that's a whole nother video, but just not being in a group. And so unless you're in this, again, a sequestered part of sentience like human beings are, and like you have this, again, loneliness throughout the species. I'm not talking me, but like species that have awareness of life everywhere don't feel like lonely ever. And so that's like the awareness in the human species, you know, God is always with you. It's like you're never alone, and you never have been, and you never will be. And so it's just like life is everywhere. And so I personally know that. I personally interact with other sentience that knows that. Human beings are kind of like, what's going on? But when I keep saying super science team, I'm not just talking about people, right? Earthling is a well-defined differentiation. So when you say there was at least two, it's like you're just looking at the anatomical difference. That, again, that's the fundamental stability of two genetically. But it's more of who, well, might as well. Again, I can't really say that much more. Again, it's just some sort of, economy to me has to be pretty local. I mean, I don't really see with resources available outside of this solar system, right? Every resource, I hear hydrogen and helium are pretty abundant. But point being is you have abundance of resources. How local they are, is there any value to taking a resource from Earth and shipping it somewhere? I tend to think like basically not at all. Within the solar system, maybe, but that's not really the big super secret science team. Like the solar system's one kind of like a unit, most of which, as we referred to back at HQ Flats when I showed you that picture, and again, you guys are all in the dog park, and you're like, I wasn't expecting that, and it was just a picture of the solar system. There's like the big Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, nice. I'm still voting for Pluto, but like that, again, the physical limits that presents from those planets is different because they're much more, again, gas giants. And so most of the life you're interacting with is more these inner planets, but the solar system is one like evolution. All life is one evolution, and it's not hard to understand that all life is like watching all other life. It's much more of like a nature reserve is what Earth is, and really kind of like the solar system, but the point being is there's not that much more maturity. And when I've interacted with it, it's just simply not being in a group, truly, is like the biggest thing. Because once you have awareness at the species level that you're not alone, you can't really feel lonely. And so, again, anything that would be perceived as insecurity, any species that is traveling or aware even doesn't have that, like at the species level. And so that's why if you actually have genuine interactions, it's always extremely calm. And then on a personal level, for me, it's like, I'm an earthling, like I'm a human being that's lived in this world where it's just it's a carnival of just human behavior. And so I have the brute ape traits as well as the extreme calmness of the awareness that comes with universality. And so that's it throws them. It really does throw them. But I'll get into another story because there is some big things you guys are missing. And I'm talking super secret science team. And so, but that's what I have for you today here, just working through the derivation. Again, none of this is special for me. And it's a physical limit. My rights continue to be violated. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.